So this is actually my first breakpoint.
Welcome.
And yeah, thank you. The thing I felt yesterday was like, clearly Solana is where the future is being built in every way, shape, or form. Obviously, fine, internet capital markets, but I think markets for everything. And, you know, as we've seen right now, we're in a moment of prediction markets, but I actually think that's like a precursor to markets on anything you want to think about, AirPods, shoes, and everything. And so we're going to see everything keep getting built out further and further. And I think
you're into prediction markets. Do we gamble on? Do we sort of get involved in the political outcomes?
You don't gamble, you predict.
Definitely.
We don't gamble, we predict.
It's not gambling.
It's not gambling.
It is a game of skill, not a game of chance.
We have rebranded. You're right. Not gambling. But personally, I love jumping on Polymarket with my friends and seeing what's going to happen with whether it's football, whether it's politics. It's a really fun way of, I think.
So I'm a little wonky. I actually like it from a transparency of information. Like I actually think it really goes with the cypherpunk ideals of having different people participate in our markets in a totally different way and having information come to us in a less filtered way. So I think it really goes with the ethos of crypto. So that's why I really like it.
It did a
must
better
be a
job.
legal minefield, though.
Right.
Yeah.
It is. Can confirm. But it's cool. And look, I was talking about this a bunch because, when you're around Breakpoint, people ask you like, how did you get into it and things like that. And I was a creator for a long time. I was a dancer, I was an artist and stuff like that. And obviously now I'm a lawyer. And I think working as a lawyer and an operator in crypto lets you bring a creative side of yourself back into everything that you do.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Last time we spoke, we were in Austin, I believe. I think it was late or mid 2023 or something. And I was saying, you know what, regulation maybe isn't the sexiest topic. And you cut me off and he said, regulation is sexy. And he went off on a rant and it was amazing. Is regulation still sexy in 2025?
We've all been doing regulation for so long. So regulation is like tiring a little bit now. It is though. It is because you're at the cutting edge of everything. And look, the regulation side for me is really sexy because as I'm very public about, decentralization, permissionlessness, like what we came here to build is super sexy to me and really what it's all about. And so trying to stay true to cypherpunk ideals while also building the future and bringing everybody along with us is really hard and super exciting.
It is really hard. And we've been asking, all week, we've been asking people, to what extent is it a problem or have we lost touch with that sort of ethos of decentralization, of disintermediation, the ideals that brought us all together, the institutional adoption journey? Has it come at a sort of negative trade-off? Are we losing our core identity? I think is something we've been asking. Got some very, very interesting questions as well.
Yeah.
Curious
from both sides of the fence. A lot of people see it's not one or the other. It's a collective
both. Yeah.
Both.
Some people have said absolutely not. It's fine because these systems all exist in their own sort of silos. They're just built on the same base layer, if you will. Curious what your take is as somebody who cares about decentralization and disintermediation.
I do. I care about it a lot. I think somebody asked me like, oh, where are we going to be in 5 years?
Who knows where we're going to be tomorrow? Yeah.
So a little bit. And so that's what I think. Like, I think seeing how everything, I couldn't have told you or predicted what happened in the last decade in crypto. Some of it was, positive and some of it was negative, and it's always a surprise. And so I actually think there are enough of us who remain true believers. And I think you can stay a true believer, but also try to bring the rest of the world along with us. And that may mean taking dips and turns in ways that you didn't expect before. But I think a lot of us are all here for the reasons. Look, here's the other thing I'll say. The one thing that crypto enables is personal autonomy. And if you actually think about where the next generation of people and what they are going and what they really care about, they care about personal autonomy over assets, over data, over their creations, over all of that. And you're never going to get that without blockchain. You cannot do that in an intermediated system. And so sure, maybe we're doing a little TradFi stuff here and there and getting assets.
Just a few $1 trillion asset managers.
Yeah, but I do think that from the autonomy piece and the cultural piece of it, the decentralization and permissionlessness is going to stay because that's what everybody cares about.
I certainly hope so.
Part of that, if you looking from the outside and you look at this blockchain world, there's, from a legal perspective, a tremendous amount of smoke and mirrors. In the last kind of week or two alone, we've seen something called fraud and becomes misstep in the same breath. how on earth do you police something that can be so variable based on what different people are saying about it?
I mean, the law is actually clear. And so what people say on Twitter may not, I know that's surprising to say, but those people may not actually be talking about what the law is. And maybe,
or know what the law is.
Correct. And there's a lot of like, especially when you're talking about like DeFi and stuff like that, like, well, what laws could we have? It's like, we have laws to hold people responsible for doing bad things. Like, we kind of don't need new ones for that. So I'm like, not as worried about policing bad behavior because we already have laws that apply to a lot of the bad behavior we've seen. Some of it we might need some new things or some tweaks, but that's like super wonky and super deep in the weeds and probably not that interesting for everybody.
I want to go back to when you first entered the Solana ecosystem.
Yeah. That was a year ago.
Right.
I accepted my Jito offer this time last year because it was around Abu Dhabi Finance Week.
I recall, and I think we were in talks with the Jito team at the time. We spoke with Seg. I asked him about airdrops, and he said, "Oof, that's one of those things that I'm probably going to get into trouble if I talk about it too much."
That was before me, so he just knew.
He just knew. He just knew what was happening. But talk to me about that transition. Was it a bit of a culture shock in any way? Did you come into the ecosystem and think these guys have no idea what they can and can't say? No.
So first of all, no. Lucas and Zano are both great and amazing, and I've done less Twitter policing with the two of them than maybe my entire time, a short time. So, but I also don't really want to be the Twitter police. And I think, Lucas has a certain personality. I would say Zano walks a tighter line, and maybe I've been like once like, oh, hey, what about this? But let's Solana is a culture shock.
Right.
In an amazing way. First of all, you cannot miss it. Like, you can't miss that it's totally different. It is like the perfect symbiosis of Raj and Toli, I think. It is so top down. So you have these like deeply technical people with this very cool cultural bent. And there's also a capitalism around Solana that makes it like just, oh, I'm just building tech.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're
building
things.
You can just do things. Yes, in Solana you really can just do things, and sometimes you don't even have to talk about doing things.
Right.
I think in Solana there's less talk and a lot more doing things, and I really like that.
It's an interesting way of putting it. As long as you don't feel like it's something that you have to go out there and be like, dude, I'm gonna take over your X account. You can't be saying that stuff.
No. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm tired at this point.
Yeah.
Or maybe I've just gotten like really desensitized to it. And look, I think that certainly the change in regulatory environment lets you be a little more risk on. I'm not talking about like, things where you can debate the legality of it, but I think that I'm also starting to look at things more as an operator and less strictly legal. And building a business is hard. And I think when you come into an in-house role, you also have to think about like, how is the business going to grow, and where are your bright lines, and where do you give advice and then let the business take it from there.
So part of that, we talk a lot about culture, talk about, Lucas and Zano just relentlessly shipping. And that's one of the mantras of Solana, ship fast, break things, or move fast and break things. When you've got billions at stake now, how on earth do you kind of balance between the two and you maintain that mantra while also adhering to existing legal structures?
I think for shipping software, there are standards in the space that good shippers adhere to, right? Code audits, testing in beta, slow rollouts, things like that. And I think Lucas and Zano are pros at figuring out how to get things into, especially because we're so deep in the stack, how to get things into Solana without breaking it, and making sure that things stay stable. So that's less legal and more tech, honestly. Yeah. And look, here's the thing I'll say generally about being a lawyer is like, you got to know where your lines are as a lawyer too. Like, fine, I want to see what the contract says about the code audit and who takes responsibility and stuff like that. But as long as you're doing audit, like, I'm not going to overstep. I need to make sure we're doing it. But there is like, you're running a business. And I think people really need to be mindful of that too.
So what would be your line with the conversation we're going to have with Zeno later? Well, what am I not allowed to ask him?
Oh, ask him anything.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
That's the best part about Zano.
You heard it. We have a green light. We can ask absolutely anything. That's good. No one's
I mean,
gonna
I
get
don't know
in
what
trouble.
his red lines are, but
I feel I got pretty close to one of his red lines last year when I was asking him in Crossroads in Istanbul about airdrops, and he swerved it once. Second time, he sort of looked at me and went, "You know what? I'm just going to tell you a story." And he told me a story about how the first airdrop that they did changed the life of I think a hot dog salesman or something
Yeah.
in Southeast Asia, and like I thought that was a very touching anecdote.
Yeah.
But I felt, you know, this man has been trained on how to swerve questions. It's very good.
Maybe, but what I'd actually say about Lucas and Zano, and like, especially when you're in these like weird market shifts and stuff like that, you really want to be building with high integrity people.
Absolutely.
And both of them
Absolutely.
I respect
Yeah.
so immensely. So I don't know. Ask him whatever.
He swerved it skillfully.
I
absolutely.
trust him. Tell him I trust him.
Yeah.
Be like, here, I'm gonna ask you some hard questions, but your lawyer said she trusts
That
you.
might stress him out even more. You feel like you're actually watching on one of these live streams. Okay, so perception, language that we use. Okay, we've sort of moved
Do you
away.
know that I'm the craziest about language we use in crypto? I wrote this op-ed years ago that people were into then, but I still stand by now that we're like our own worst enemies based
Yes.
on the language that we use in
Yes,
crypto.
absolutely.
Like, instead
Throwing
of,
around it's crime season.
Yeah.
As if we're
I
like,
didn't mean that.
Oh,
I mean
okay.
more like calling things money market funds on chain. It's like, that's not where we should be going. Or even
Right.
like something as simple as wallet. Like that has caused so much, I don't know, like consternation and stuff like that. So I think we need to be very intentional. Back in the day,
do teams know this?
did I believe that?
No, that we shouldn't be calling things wallets.
We're there. So you can't roll things back. I tried to roll back algorithmic stablecoins and people were like, no. So
It
I don't,
sounds fancy.
yeah.
What should we be
like,
using instead if not wallet?
we're down, it's already there. You can't get everybody to shift their mindset. But like what I'll say is it's like very hard to convince people like it's just software and you can't regulate it like you regulate a bank or something like that.
But
Yeah.
you can sanction it apparently. OFAC famously sanctioned the founders or core contributors of Tornado Cash. And that was a whole thing. We made a documentary about that a couple of years ago. So depending on who's doing the regulating, I guess you can sanction code. It's not necessarily always free speech.
Two different types of things. Here's what I'll say. Tornado Cash is a whole different thing. You can, as you said, you did a whole documentary on it. That's separate. They sanctioned code. Obviously, they rolled that back now.
They did.
But you're not sanctioning wallets as code. There are actually tons of wallets, no Solana wallets, actually, only Bitcoin and Ethereum wallets on the sanctions list.
Fingers crossed it stays that way.
I know. They're sanctioning the people and attaching the wallets of those people. So like if you're a bad guy and they know that's your Bitcoin address, they will say that's a sanctioned wallet because it's attached to a sanctioned person.
Does that become extremely difficult when people can have side wallets and symbols and they can, obfuscate as much as they like?
I mean, these blockchain analytics companies had made like a whole market out of tracing wallets that are attached to sanctioned wallets and hops and all of that sort of stuff. So sure, it's difficult, but on the other side, when you talk to law enforcement, FBI, whatever, they actually love it.
The transparency
The
element. of it works for
transparency of
them,
it,
yeah.
being able to track it, things like that.
Yeah, and I guess we're moving towards a highly sort of artificial intelligence driven future. It's probably going to be a lot easier for them to just train AIs to say, well, find all the transactions and map the likelihood of these people having interacted with sanctioned wallets, and maybe that's a problem in the future.
Maybe we're very far from that because I just spun up something with like an LLM and they told me it was 2024. So I'm pretty sure we're very far away.
I wish it was 2024. I think we're meme coins, but everything.
coming back.
We're coming back. We are coming back. You mentioned perception. You think a lot about perception. I think the industry's taken a few hits in terms of perception. Legally speaking, as far as the Democrats have viewed President Trump and his endeavors, and I think it all sort of started going downhill with his meme coin launch, and then his wife launched a meme coin, and then there was botting that was quite self-evident. People had sort of sniped the token launch. Not great optics. We go around joking about it's crime season, but the Democrats have come out and said, look, he might be the self-fashioned crypto president, and he might have all these crypto ventures, but obviously it is also crypto corruption. So from your perspective as both an operator and a legal professional, to what extent are we shooting ourselves in the foot by by not, I guess, distancing ourselves from this, or can we distance ourselves from this? Where do you view that perception issue that's arising from, President Trump's crypto endeavors?
If you believe in permissionlessness, you are not going to be able to distance yourself from it. I don't know if I think anybody, maybe some people are doubling down and supporting it and things like that. But before President Trump launched his meme coin, he also had launched trading cards, and he had done that permissionlessly.
Shoes, stakes, Bibles.
Everything. So there is a capitalism that's making its way on chain. So I don't know. And maybe that's not helpful, but I think crypto, we did this debate yesterday, right? About like, do you think crypto should have political alignment as a growth strategy? And the answer is, of course not, because we would never have the Genius Act if we had only picked a side. And so even though it's been really hard to do things, regardless, US, UK, all over the place, you got to get into every room.
Yep.
And like we've seen, right, everybody's talked about this. Innovation has this curve where people are super resistant to it, and we're still there. So you got to keep pushing.
So would you say that within the legal community, there's still the vast majority of people are quite anti-crypto or very skeptical of crypto?
In the legal community, in the policy community,
In the legal
or
community.
I think there are people who don't even know about it still, like just general lawyers, stuff like that. Maybe people know about Bitcoin.
Stable coins, they must have heard of stable
People
coins
know
by
about
now.
stable coins now. I mean, it's coming into the like traditional vernacular, but I'd say the number of great lawyers who understand crypto is very small.
Right.
Is that a good thing? Do we want to sort of keep it in our own little bubble and stay away from my crypto, my ethos?
It depends. Crypto lawyering is as tribal as crypto itself.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah.
Lawyers are reasonable.
Tribal in what sense?
Certain types of structures, like do we believe in like Panamanian foundations versus Cayman foundations versus Swiss foundations, like that kind of stuff. There's also a really cool community around crypto lawyers too, and like we have our own Telegram groups.
Oh, really?
We do.
Oh, don't let us in there.
You're not.
Okay.
But so there is a community. We all do really help each other, but there is some tribalism too of like, oh my god, that was such a stupid legal structure, but same kind of thing.
Speaking of tribalism, you said earlier that it would be stupid for us as an industry to pick a side, politically speaking.
I don't think I said stupid, but sure.
I'm paraphrasing. I'm putting words in your mind. I apologize. It would be not as smart as other countries.
Inadvisable.
However, during the last presidential election, we definitely picked a horse in the race. So, are we stuck with that until the end of the term? Or are we stuck with that until the consequences of the midterms become apparent?
I mean, the president's the president, so...
But he's the crypto president.
Yeah.
Quote, unquote, crypto president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see what's happening in DC right now, where we're past Genius and now we're doing market structure. And I mean, inside baseball, like we're all engaging with both sides to get market structure across the line. And the questions around that are really hard still. And, we're on a totally different time zone. So when my day ends here, my day in DC starts, and doing a bunch of virtual meetings and stuff like that on both sides. I'll wake up to texts from people and various different agencies and stuff like that. So nobody's picking one side right now.
Okay.
Like to get everything across the line, we got to really be engaging.
Realistically, to what extent do you think it's the midterms are going to jeopardize that process? I know it's super hard. There's probably a prediction market for this.
Definitely.
But put a number on it. Is it 60% likelihood of midterms going the wrong way, and then we've got to face even more hurdles?
I think
is it 40%? Is it
I think I mean, I am looking at like the data. I think that we're having another mini swing. We've had lots of these like really hyper large swings. I think we're having another mini swing. But I'm going to take it back to something that we talked about before, which is like people are having these swings. So they're like, who is going to be there for me? And I think if we can get the narrative across that like crypto is actually there for people, it's not going to be hopefully too destructive to the long-term process. But I think, look, you can see from everything that's happening on Twitter, Patrick Witt's engaging and things like that, and talked about, there was a White House summit yesterday. I'm trying to figure out the days since we're on the other side of the world, but yesterday, and a lot of us couldn't go because we were all
It's
here.
day 2 of Breakpoint. That's all that matters.
That's right. But yeah, it was funny because a lot of us who were like invited to go to this little mini summit about market structure were here. We're like, can we do it virtually? And they're like, no, show up or not. So we're like, well, we're not going to make this 15-hour flight back in time. But look, I think the White House is super motivated to get this done. And that was something they always wanted to do. So look, I'm hopeful we can get a really good bill across the line. Not just any bill, but a good bill. And it's very difficult.
This is a question I asked Kristen earlier. From a foundational ethos, crypto is, for me, quite leftist. It's about financial inclusion. It's about, custody of your own assets. That has, I guess, switched recently to a more capitalized angle. Where does crypto sit now on that spectrum of left to right?
What do you mean? Like, where does the industry sit? Where does what we stand for sit?
Where does perception of the industry from the outside looking in?
Oh, I think perception of the industry sits on the right.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's necessarily true or right on some level. I think that, as I said, we're all engaging on all sides. And anybody who really cares just wants to see crypto be protected long term and let this industry grow. Like, there are a lot of us who are like, we are engaging so that we can get to the right answer, not just any answer. And once there's a right answer, like, I'm hoping to chill a little bit, not like chill from a work perspective. Obviously, there's like jobs not finished. That's like Lucas's favorite thing. One more hard quarter, but that's like every quarter.
We asked exactly the same question to Nick Dukov. He also said, one more hard quarter. And, culturally, this, as you mentioned, comes from the top down, from Tony and Raj. Love that mentality, job's not done, get back to work. But it was a very, very hard quarter. If you think about, 10-10, potentially contagion, potentially bodies floating up. Legally, did anything sort of flash to you and you were like, oh my God, this is a problem? Or was it sort of more on the trader user side? What are your, now that it's kind of over, what are your views of that particular crisis?
I think there were some large players who were engaged in some part of the market. I can't figure out which, that may have flipped a little bit of a switch or flipped some switches off. Can't speak to what, I don't know what they did. And so I don't know the legal ramifications of that. And look, I think we've seen so many changes and fluctuations in the market. I actually think the existential feeling that we have on crypto Twitter is familiar. We've had it before. And I think every time people in crypto have to re-underwrite their thesis, it's a great thing because something new comes out of it. We come out even more energized. And when you've been in the real trenches, forget the trading trenches, but when you've been in the real trenches with people for so long, you just come out better, stronger, more reinvigorated. And so if you're sticking it out and building, talk to Zano about that. Because
we should.
Yeah.
We absolutely should.
I think it's a really good thing.
Yeah, I think we should stop using this term trenches for this meme quote.
I know.
It is such a degradation of what the actual trenches are for a lot of people.
Yeah, I do think we should stop using it for that because like the real trenches are, I used to say it, like I was a litigator before I got into crypto in some ways. And like when you're at trial, you're in the trenches. And like, that's what being in these bear markets are like. You are in the trenches, you are building with people. And look, even when it's a good market, you are building things is hard. It's really hard. Especially on Solana where we're moving fast and shipping things well. That's hard. And so, I think we should stop using trenches on the
And actually, I think one of my biggest takeaways from everyone we've spoken to is that nobody cares about price. Actually, everyone is here because they're building apps that are gonna change how we do things, and that's the primary focus, and that's why we're all here. So less focus on the trenches and the prices, more focus on building meaningful applications.
And
markets for everything, like we started talking about.
And not going to jail in the process, ideally. Speaking of going to jail, SBF is in jail. CZ kind of went to jail.
Yeah, he went to jail.
4 months.
Yeah.
Has been pardoned. A lot of people are not very happy about it. Trump was asked about it during a press conference, and he said, "What do you know about crypto? You know nothing." But then often Trump will also say things like, "I don't know anything about that."
Yeah.
So great deflector, great communicator, understands how the media works. What are the odds of SBF also getting pardoned, coming back with a new exchange or something wild like that?
I hope it's zero.
Yeah.
I hope.
I'm sure there's a prediction market for this.
Absolutely is.
There may be a prediction market for it. I'm very curious about that. Zero. that was talk about existential moments in crypto, especially because we were
With
moving
Solana, yeah.
Solana legislation. We had just started getting traction in DC. Like I remember having to fly down to DC 2 weeks after FTX had crashed. And I was like, God, what am I going to do to like amp myself up to walk into these meetings? And I read the Bitcoin white paper. Like I'll never forget about that.
Wow.
Great.
When in
Really
doubt,
great
when in
law.
doubt, read the Bitcoin white paper.
It's true though, because you're like, what am I here for? I really hope zero chance that he gets pardoned. And I really rarely come out with like spicy takes or like I really, try to be pretty, just like a champion of the industry, but zero.
What do the prediction markets say? Do you know?
I think last time I checked, it was like 10%, 8%.
Okay.
So
people are just thinking like, can I buy $1 for 10 cents? Let's see. It's not going to happen, is it? Fingers crossed that doesn't happen. You said you rarely come out with spicy takes, but I'm sure you're holding back on something. I'm sure there's something that you're seeing happen in Solana land right now that you think, okay, we've come so far. We've had the crisis of Trump. We've obviously before that FTX, the meme coin issue, Libra was obviously a major international scandal. There's ongoing international investigations into that. I don't know if it's the FBI or Europol or Interpol, but somebody's investigating what the frick happened there, and something's going to happen. I don't know if it's Hayden Smith's going to deal with it, or Milei and his family's going to deal with it, but something is going to happen. What are the issues similar to that might be brewing sort of behind the scenes at the moment that you want to say something spicy about, but you can't? Now is the time to say it.
Oh, I have started saying my spicy thing is, and I'm writing a paper on it now that's going to come out early next year. We do not need permissioned chains.
Ooh.
No corporate chains, please.
No corporate change.
how do we stop that from happening?
Yeah, how do you stop a massive corporation from doing what
I
they
mean,
want?
they're going to do it, but I think what we actually have to emphasize is that banks, financial institutions, anybody who wants to transact actually will be safer in a permissionless world from an operational resilience perspective than in a tightened up permissioned world where we've seen all sorts of things happen. Like you see data hacks, you see all that stuff. So my biggest spicy take right now is no more corporate chains.
But TradFi institutions and trillion-dollar asset managers being here is totally fine until they issue their own permission systems.
They should be on permissionless networks. We should bring financial institutions to permissionless networks. Safer for them, not inconsistent with the laws as they work today. Don't need to change the laws to let them work on permissionless networks. So, yeah.
I guess the argument in favor of them is that they can come with this huge war chest and they can build these tremendous walled gardens by which they can operate their own kind of. We talk a lot about bringing trillions on chain.
Yeah.
And we want that to be on Solana,
Correct.
obviously. But what's going to keep people on Solana if Vanguard comes up with its own chain and then it's hyper privatized?
I don't understand why we need those chains. We have permission databases now. Like, okay, just go do that wherever. But you're not going to expand out. You're not going to have new people using your products. You're not going to have new types of access. You're just not going to bring new people into the financial world. And the permissionless networks can do that.
I want to end on a bullish note.
Okay.
Obviously, regulation is still sexy, not just from your perspective, but we need it. It is moving in the right direction. I'm super excited. Again, thank you so much for coming here and sharing your unfiltered takes with us. But what's the single most exciting thing that you think is going to happen in 2026 as far as Solana's progression, this natural evolution that we've discussed today, institutional adoption, the retail participants not necessarily feeling pushed out, not feeling that their original ethos, the reasons why they're here, are getting destroyed by institutions. With all of that in mind, what is the single most exciting thing that you're looking forward to next year? Surely not the midterms.
Oh, but do you mean from a policy perspective?
From a Solana perspective.
Oh, from a Solana perspective? That we have no idea what's going to happen next on Solana.
Excellent.
I love that.
Oh,
Excellent.
good.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
The only way is up. Okay. Questions?
Rebecca.
Rebecca Rettig, thank you so much for making time to talk to us on Solana Floor live from Breakpoint 2025
awesome.
here in Abu Dhabi. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
I'll take that microphone from you.
You have it.
Thank you so much. And enjoy the rest of your time.
Likewise.
Yes, I will.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you.
Take care.